Let's start off with Jimmy Garoppolo. He hasn't thrown an interception in 2 games, and he's back to his old winning ways. And I think it's time to ask, is it time for us to apologize to Jimmy Garoppolo?
Yeah, maybe before I just give you the direct answer, we'll talk about all the great things that Jimmy's doing right now.
There you go.
So right now, Jimmy Garoppolo has 5 touchdowns, only 1 interception. That's for the year. So
Wow.
that's a 5-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, which is
Wow.
outstanding. And I bet you it's pretty close to one of the top in the league. So that's great. He's trending 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions on the year, which would be his best season by far in that regard as well. So a lot of great things for Jimmy. He has an opportunity against the Falcons. If he can not turn the ball over against the Falcons, it'll be the first time in his career that he's gone 3 games without a turnover. So
Wow.
these are all great things.
Yeah.
A lot of things to be excited about. Now, to answer your question, do we owe Jimmy Garoppolo an apology? And my answer is no, absolutely not. And I'll tell you my reason why. I've never said anything about Jimmy Garoppolo that I don't believe was true. If he ends up playing like this the rest of the season, winning the Super Bowl, I don't feel an apology is granted. I've just been judging him based on what I've seen so far. And for his career, he averages a 1.8 turnover to 1 touchdown ratio, which is a hell of a lot different than what he's been able to do so far. So for that, I'm not going to apologize. Everything I say about Jimmy's based on what he's shown me so far. And so far this season, he's done well. Now, I think that deserves some context. He did amazing against the Panthers. Panthers are probably one of the worst teams in the NFL, if not the worst. They just fired their coach this morning. As you told him to fire him last night in your review. They must have been watching.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah. So they listened to you. So, my hope is that Jimmy Garoppolo continues to play the way he's playing right now, and that, he plays this way in the playoffs and he wins the Super Bowl for the 49ers. And if he continues to play this way, that's there's a big possibility that happens. But everything we said about Jimmy in the past doesn't change. And I will be complimentary and, be rooting for Jimmy more than anybody this year if he continues to play the way he's playing. But the game against the Broncos was pretty freaking awful, right? And then he had a bounce back game last week. But if you look at the game plan there, Kyle Shanahan did a great job of reducing the risk for Jimmy. A lot of outside passes, basically turned the running game into a passing game or whatever, vice versa. A lot of stuff at the line of scrimmage and behind the line of scrimmage. In this game that we just watched yesterday, I thought it was the best game I've seen him play in a long time. But again, I think Kyle Shanahan is doing a great job of taking things outside the middle. Before with Jimmy Garoppolo, all we saw was these slants and these things right in the middle of the field. And Kyle Shanahan has been changing that. He's keeping things outside. Jimmy had a couple of really good, nice throws. He had a couple bad throws, one that should have definitely been an interception. And so before I stop rambling here, mathematically, the best way to predict the future is to look at the past. And so based on his numbers in the past, mathematically, the expectations are that Jimmy is going to have a bad game coming up. Or the other possibility is that he's improved, which is possible, or that Kyle Shanahan has changed his game plan and done the smart thing to help Jimmy. So that's my thoughts on the situation.
I don't think he's improved. I'm sorry. I'm a downer. I guess, you pointed out those numbers. Those are good numbers, 5-1. I look at that as, him kind of being lucky. And maybe I'm a jerk, but I feel like, is he making better decisions? Not really. I feel like there's still about 2 plays a game where he just forces a pass into double coverage and hits a DB in the chest, in the hands. And the last 2 games, they haven't caught him. But those things kind of even out. So I don't think he's going to finish the season with a 5-1 or a 3-1 TD-INT ratio. But if he does, then that changes everything. I just feel like watching the games, he hasn't looked like a more conscientious, cautious quarterback to me. And then there's also the fact okay, so he beat the Rams and the Carolina Panthers. That's great. I mean, it'd be bad if he lost to those teams, but we've seen him beat the Rams a million times. The Panthers are so bad they just fired their coach. I mean, with Jimmy, we've seen this show so many times. He'll win a bunch of games in the regular season. Then people will say, does this mean he's going to win the Super Bowl? I don't know. I mean, he's been terrible in the playoffs. And there's still this stat that when the Niners, when he throws more than they run, they're 9-13 in his career. So we've seen Jimmy win a lot of games. He's 35-15 in his career. Mm-hmm. He's going to continue to, as long as he has this run game and this defense and he doesn't turn the ball over. But, I kind of think the turnovers are coming, although I could be wrong. So I guess there could be a time to apologize to Jimmy Garoppolo. But it's not after back-to-back wins over the Rams, who suck, and the Panthers, who suck. Not yet.
Yeah. And the thing about the Falcons is they're ranked 29th in passing defense. So it's entirely possible Jimmy Garoppolo goes out and kills it against the Falcons as well. So, for me, it's like someone asked me yesterday on Twitter, are you going to jump on the Jimmy train if he goes 3 games without a turnover? And my answer is no. I'll get on the Jimmy train after he wins the Super Bowl, or at least after he plays well in the playoffs.
Yeah.
If he plays well in the playoffs, I'll get on the Jimmy train.
I feel like I compare him to kind of like, I want to say, Donovan Mitchell. I go basketball here. A guy who, has success in the regular season. Wins games, puts up numbers, but then the playoffs come and it's a different game. And all of a sudden, you might be the number 1 seed, but you're just not getting it done. You can't get your shot off. Defenses are tougher. They're more dialed in. They know your strengths and weaknesses, and you're just not that guy. Mm-hmm. And so now you're on Cleveland. So I that's the way I see it. I don't care what he does in the regular season, really. We got to see him in the playoffs when he gets there because he's never had a good playoff game in 6 tries. He's had bad ones. So that's the test for him.
And I saw Jesse tweeted out the records of every team we've played this year, and we've played nothing but losing teams. Even the teams we lost to are losing teams. Teams we beat, losing teams. So, we got to see more from Jimmy statistically, mathematically. I'm a big math guy. If he's normally 1.8 to 1 on the touchdown to turnover ratio, and right now he's 5 to 1, unless he just got better or unless Kyle Shanahan figured out how to use him better, he's due for some bad games. And it may not come against the Falcons, but I think it's going to come at some point. And so I'm just a little bit lenient. It's like, those friends of yours that have like a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and they're all constantly breaking up, and they're constantly like complaining about them when they break up, and then they get back with them and they expect you to be all happy for them. It's kind of how I look at this. It's like, no, dude, like take your time. There's a reason why you guys broke up in the first place. So hold off a little bit.
I kind of feel like defenses are so locked into how to defend Jimmy. Like they're really taking away the middle of the field. And anytime he throws over the middle, it's like, it looks like a near pick. It's just so much traffic because all they get is single high stuff. There's no 2D. I mean, they know you got to take away that hole in the middle of the field. And so Kyle's doing a good job of finding ways to get Jimmy Garoppolo to throw outside the numbers. And he was doing it by those deep throws to the tight ends and the running backs. We've been seeing it all season. How long is that going to work? Because you call about 3 of those game. You had Tevin Coleman making the catch of his life. George Kittle making the catch of his, not the catch of his life, but some really difficult catches. Can you really live by that against good teams? You know what I mean? So it's what they're doing now, and it's clever. It's what you got to do because the middle of the field is not available right now. They're not giving you that. You have to go there. And, they're trying. It's working so far.
If you watch the second drive of the game yesterday, the first pass was I believe a pass right to the defender's numbers. Should have been an interception.
That's what I'm saying.
The second one was a force. It was a tight, tough one to George Kittle. It could have also been, or not Kittle. I think it was
Debo.
Was it Debo? It could have been intercepted as well.
Yeah.
And then Kittle caught one, fumble. That was the worst drive of the game. And if that's his game plan, that looked like last year's game plan for Jimmy. If that's his game plan, the turnovers are coming. But the rest of the game, I thought Kyle did great and kept things outside. I really think he's listening to quality control.
We'll get to that in a second. I just felt like the difference in the game was that both Baker and Jimmy threw a ball directly to a defensive back. The one on the Panthers dropped the ball. The one on the Niners picked it off and returned it for a touchdown. That was a big difference in the game. Mm-hmm. And both quarterbacks did their part. It's really what the defender did that shapes our perception of them. I think they're very similar. Yeah. Let's answer a few questions and talk about Kyle. Brian says Jimmy did pretty well considering, but why does he not even look at a wide open deep throw like 3 times a game? I think he's kind of a one-read quarterback a lot of the time. I mean, sometimes he goes through it, but sometimes he is so locked on. He just makes up his mind. You can see it.
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
wonder if that's him all the time, or if Kyle's telling him who to look for, and I don't know.
It could be. Could be a combination. Irfin says, should Dante Johnson start? He'll probably end up starting, won't he?
Dante,
He's so dependable.
he
I
is.
think Ambry will get the first shot, but I don't know. He was so bad in training camp. Maybe the Niners are spooked.
Yeah,
Eddie
I'm
says
hoping,
no. Go ahead.
I'm hoping it's not Ambry. I think it's right. I think I saw you last night. You think it's going to be Ambry this week. I'm hoping it's not. But knowing Kyle, it seems to like that's kind of his style. He takes the second year player over the first year player every time. I'm hoping
Right.
it's Womack. I'm hoping Verrett. Honestly, I'm hoping Verrett is healthy, but it doesn't sound like he's quite ready. So
Yeah.
I'd like Womack, but it's probably going to be Thomas.
If it's Ambry, he's going to get targeted so much. So much. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure he'll make it through the game without getting benched. But we'll see. I mean, there's also Diamador Lenore who's starting to get targeted a little bit here and there too. So there's options for opposing. The Niners haven't faced a good offense yet. I'm really curious to see what this defense looks like against a real quarterback with real weapons. Not that it's not a great defense, but let's get a real test.
Yeah, we'll see it against Kansas City for sure.
Eddie says no, still cringe when Jimmy throws the ball. What? Yeah, me too.